Hey there guys, this is Magnus. Today I'm going to be showing you the ZVP build that I've been working on over the past few weeks. I've had a lot of success with this build, and it shows a couple different aspects of Zerg and Zerg build orders that I don't think are really recognized in the community. I'm not going to say I originate any of this crap, but I think it's worth bearing further consideration. This first match, just to get everything out there, I'm going to run through it really quickly, and I'm just going to show you the overview of the build. I'll go into the exact details of it in the next match that we watch. Suffice it to say, in this one, I go against a Protoss player that techs quickly to Templar and takes a relatively quick third. And then in the next game, I'll be playing against a stargate opening. And in the third game, I'll be going against a fast warpgate. It's, I believe, a 5-gate warpgate attack after my 9 pool. Speaking of which, we'll start the introduction to how this build works. I open up with a 9 pool, as you may have guessed, since I just said it. And one of the things that I wanted to show with this build is that a 9 pool is not necessarily an economically damaging build. You don't have to necessarily deal damage to your opponent's economy in order to make up for, quote-unquote, the economy that you lose from it. Rather, I just feel it's an aggressive pool opening, or pool first opening, that allows you to have map control just like any other pool opening, and power hard because of that. Also, because you don't need to build the pool sometime between your hatches, you can put the hatches down quickly and then get the queens up quickly after that, while continuing to produce drones and overlords and keeping your economy going. As opposed to, for example, going hatch then pool, you can't immediately put down your queen, if you do that, because the pool's not done yet. And if you go for a 3 hatch before pool, then you don't have any kind of map control and you could get in trouble. So all those things are taken care of by going for a 9 pool, and that's why I like to open with it in this matchup. Also, the 9 pool, like I said, will delay your opponent's nexus in most cases, either by forcing out extra buildings to make sure he's completely walled in, or, making him pull probes, deny mining, etc. Or just simply denying the nexus going down. Sometimes I walk past the cannon at the front and just sit behind his mineral line and pop out whenever the probe tries to put down the nexus. That will give you an extra minute or two. Well, probably not 2 minutes, but we'll just say a minute. Meanwhile, overview of the build. I'm going to get my 6 geysers as soon as I have moderate saturation on all my bases, enough saturation to continue with drone production. And then I'm going to go directly into Lair double ups and Zergling speed, followed by Hydralists and Corruptors. We'll go ahead and skip ahead at this point. Let's go to 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Alright, here at 12 minutes we can see I've got my Hydro Den and my Spire down, and I've got my upgrades pumping down here. All my bases are fully saturated. I have a macro hatch and a macro queen that's spreading creep until this hatch is ready. And I'm just producing a whole bunch of Lings in case I get in some kind of trouble. Once the Hydro Den is up, I'm going to make a full round of Hydras. Same thing with the Spire, do a full round of Spires. And then that will take us up to the 14-minute mark, where I do my attack. The attack is slightly delayed in this match because of some zealot harassment that I had to deal with. Therefore, my economy was slightly behind, but no bother. Here we are at 15 minutes about, and I'll go in for my 14-minute attack. Again, this is just a quick overview. In this attack, I am not actually trying to kill this third or kill my opponent's forces per se. I would love to kill as many of his units as possible. What this attack is actually doing is letting me kill off the Colossi. With a Ling Hydra army, the only thing that really hurts your Colossi, or rather really hurts your Hydralists, are Colossi. So, for that reason, it doesn't matter that I lost my whole entire army here and only have Corruptors on 4 bases going on. Here's 4 bases going on to a 5th one while this attack was going on. I'm going to have plenty of larvae and plenty of income to remax extremely quickly. Moving ahead to 18 minutes, I already have my Broodlords started. Again, I would like to have... There they go. 18 minutes. Broodlords are starting. In another game, I would normally like to have that at like 17 minutes, have them started, so I can attack at 18 minutes, 14 and 18 being our attacks. But again, this game is slightly behind time-wise, So we're just going to have to deal with it. It doesn't change a whole lot. The last thing I'm going to go over in this introductory game is the way we use our Broodlords, because it's a bit different. I actually use my Broodlords as tanks. They are a very tanky unit. And as you see, I'm going to let them walk forward all by themselves. I will do a juke move in just a minute with these Hydras and Lings because it's taking the Protoss player entirely too long to blink forward. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the blink forward. Now I can engage his Stalkers with my Hydras and Lings, as well as anything else he has. And I can use my Corruptors, pick off the Colossi now that they're forced forward to join the rest of the army. Good stuff. Basically, you know, as you can see, the point of this army, as opposed to an Infestor army, which is a very controlling, very positional play, is that I have so much damage available to me that I can easily sacrifice Broodlords, which would normally be dealing damage, to get the Protoss player out of position and just crush his army head on. Again, Hydras and Adrenal Lings deal a lot of damage, as do Broodlords, so it's fine if I lose my Broodlords. In the next game, we'll see me lose half my Broodlords, which generally would be horrible. You know, that would be a huge blow. But the Broodlords don't necessarily need to be doing damage because I'm always going to have a lot of Hydras left over because the Broodlords are tanking all the damage. And because I'm on 5 or 6 base economy at this point, I can easily just remax and rally to the front as it's going. As you can see, despite only having this much here, I'm at 189. I have a whole bunch of stuff coming through the production queue and rallying straight to the front. A whole bunch of Lings, some more Hydras, and I can easily morph more Broodlords if I want to, right in this position, because the opponent does not have an army. Even if he has like 11 gates, that's actually not enough Stalkers even to deal with this Hydra Broodlord mix. It will deal some damage, but then I'll just have more Broodlords morphing, finishing up, and more Corruptors coming to the front to help me. We'll cover some more of the possibilities of what the opponent's army could be or could have in the next video, but just to reiterate for this video, to get your mindset set, to get your mindset on what we're doing here, we open with the 9 pool to get us 3 quick bases and a really powerful economy. Use that to produce a max Hydra Ling Corruptor army to get rid of his Colossi, all this time teching straight to Broodlords in the background. That way, in that small transitionary period where our Greater Spire is getting up and we're morphing our Broodlords, the Protoss army cannot attack us with that many Colossi, or that many forces at all to begin with, because we had just finished them off just a few minutes before. Alright, that should be everything for this video. Again, this is going to be a bit long video, so I'm trying to speed through this part. I'm going to see you in the next part. Alright, here we are in Cloud Kingdom. We'll be starting from the 9 pool. I'm going to go over this build in more detail. 9 pool doesn't actually need any explanation, so that's why we're starting here rather than at the very beginning of the game. I make my 6 Lings, as you can see up in the production tab, and then I'm going to make another 2. The first 6 Lings are just going to go over there and hopefully deny the expansion for a while, as well as force out anything else that I can get from my opponent. Any damage at all is good, it's just unnecessary in this build. That's the point. These 2 Lings are to prevent cannon rushes and prevent pylon blocks, that way I can have this hatchery down as quickly as possible. As we saw, the Protoss player, when he saw my 9 pool, sent out a second probe, that way he could cannon rush me. That's a bit unfortunate. I would prefer there to only be 1, even though I easily cleaned up any cannon rushes, because now this second probe is going to see me taking my second expansion. I would love more than anything else for my Protoss player to assume that I'm on 1 or 2 bases and that this 9 pool severely damaged my economy and now I'm not going to have anything, you know. That would work out great for me. But unfortunately, he sees 3 bases, knows I'm going for a heavy economic play, and, you know, there's not much I can do about that at this point. Meanwhile, Nexus is only just now finishing up. We'll see that it's only a couple seconds ahead of my 3rd. Meanwhile, just skipped over this part, so we'll pull it back. The Queens. Once the natural is up, I'm going to get 3 or 4 drones onto the natural, or at least queued onto the natural, and then I'm going to start my first queen at the main. I'm going to build another 3 or 4 drones over here. My queen should be about halfway done. That's a good timing for it. And get a second queen at my natural. I'm not going to build my third queen until this queen at the natural is done. The reason I'm staggering it like this is because in order to keep up with the larva injects, you know, having to build drones and overlords constantly in order not to get supply blocked, requires a good mineral income, and I just don't have that if I throw down all 3 queens at the same time or even remotely close to the same time. Meanwhile, I'm going to rally my main and natural here until I have about 16 drones queued up here, and then I'll rally back to my third. My third was already saturating itself. With just 2 more production cycles about, I should have full saturation on this third. Queen comes out here. I've got 10 probes, or 10 drones queued up, and now I throw down 6 gases. So once I have this ready to be saturated, throw down your 6 gases. Now this next part is going to happen really quick in game while you're playing, so you're just going to have to respond quickly and just get used to moving, or getting your APM up for this part. You want to saturate all 6 of your geysers as quickly as possible since you just got them all up. And by the time I found that you end up getting the last 6 drones into the geysers, you already had 100 gas for the fast lair. Once you got the fast lair, you can make a couple drones and maybe move your Lings around a little bit and get your metabolic boost. Again, 6 geysers is going to get you 100 gas extremely quickly. So work quickly with this and try to keep up in your macro. We'll see I'm slipping here because of this Void Ray. I'm going to come back to this Void Ray in just a minute and talk about that. But I should be getting double ups as soon as the Evo chambers pop. You should have plenty of gas for double upgrades. Alright, pulling back just a couple minutes to talk about this Void Ray. Alright, so this Void Ray. I don't actually notice it coming out because I was playing extremely slowly and just not keeping up with everything. As we see, I get oversaturated here and just not remembering to rally drones to my other bases. We should be getting spores up in case of DTs as soon as our Evo chambers are done, along with our double ups. I'm a bit late on that again because I was playing slow and therefore I lose my queen here. But this Void Ray is actually great for us. Seeing a stargate opening again from our Protoss opponent is wonderful because that is a lot of gas that is not going into Colossi right away and not going into DTs. If he did go into DTs after the gas or after the Stargate, then there definitely are no Colossi at all coming for a very long time, and we are safe, completely safe. Pulling just back so that we can see the timings of our Hydra Den and our Spire. As soon as that lair pops, speed up, get the lair to pop. We should be throwing down our Hydra Den and our Spire. Again, the Void Ray messed with me a little bit, so I don't get them down right away in this game, but Hydra Den and Spire at the same time. I'm going to get supply blocked here in just a moment, so I'm not going to have my Hydras out right away. There's the 5 Overlords, that way I can start the Hydras, but make as many Hydras as you can as soon as that Hydra Den finishes. The same is true for the Spire. As soon as the Spire finishes, again I'm on supply blocked in this game, I should be making as many Corruptors as I can. Normally 10 to 12 is about right. In the meantime, like I mentioned last game, grab your extra bases. I only grabbed 1 base because of the Void Ray that's flying around. I didn't want to have the second one sniped off. And start moving out across the map. Again, we'll pull back. I should probably just slow this down here since we're going into so much detail. While we're waiting for our Hydra Den to pop, we're making as many Lings as possible in case an attack comes while we're waiting for our Hydras. You can easily have the income to build all the Lings in the world. Plus, they're going to have they should have the +1 carapace finished already, so you'll be fine for any attacks, especially if you stop the attack, let's say out here, and slow it down so it takes long enough to get to your base and your Hydras can pop out and totally wipe out the attack. The only attacks that are coming this early are either extremely fast Colossi, 1 Colossus pushes, or an Immortal Sentry push. Immortal Sentry push sucks, but so long as we have our Hydras up, we can deal with it no problem. The 1 Colossi push will be a problem, but we just take it at a ramp and bring all 4 Queens over. The Queens will DPS down that Colossi extremely quickly. So we'll be alright with that. Once we have our Hydras and Lings out, we can start moving out across the map, just clearing out anything we want to on the way over, and we're just going to rally our Corruptors to the front. In this 14-minute attack, again, this one is a little delayed at this point because of Void Arrays and supply blocks and all the horrible playingness. But around 13-14 minutes, when this attack comes up, we should have two Overseers with us, just in case there are DTs. Because, again, DTs are going to pop into this matchup very, very frequently, and we want to be able to detect them when they come out. So, here comes our Corruptors coming to the front line, and now we're going to move up for an attack. Just to reiterate, the point of this attack is not to kill our opponent, it's to get rid of all his Colossi, that way we can transition into Broodlords comfortably. He ends up walling off the ramp right here, which makes it difficult to attack into. I do my best and pick off the Colossi. I managed to get a whole lot of sentries at the same time because Hydras tear sentries and Immortals apart. These Immortals happen to get away unscathed, but I get the Colossi down and then I just pull back with everything. Yes, I could go ahead and try to pick off these two Immortals, but it doesn't matter because Immortals do not damage my army. We're going to take a quick moment here while the rest of the while the rest of the game is finishing up here, and go over why we only care about Colossi. If we look at Stalker damage, it does extra damage against armored. If we look at Immortal damage, it deals extra damage against armored. Neither Lings nor Hydras are armored units. Therefore, both of these unit types cannot hurt our army nearly as quickly as our army, our high DPS Ling Hydra army, can hurt theirs. Therefore, the Colossi, being the AoE damage, is the only damage we have to worry about because of our low health Hydras and our low health Zerglings. Now, in just a minute here, I'm going to have my Greater Spire finishing up. It was delayed because I had a 1+1 air weapon finishing up at the same time, and I had started my Hive extra early. I actually had the Hive halfway done by the time that attack started commencing. So had I been on point and had I possibly canceled that +1 air weapon, I would have Broodlords an extra minute or two earlier. Probably just a minute. In the meantime, we can see I've got my upgrades working. My +1 melee just got finished. I'm waiting for my +2 ranged attack getting done, and I'm getting 4 Overseers. We went into 2 Overseers in the first matchup, in the first attack in case of DTs. We went 4 to 6 Overseers in the second attack in case of a mothership. At 18 minutes, I'm assuming a mothership's going to be out. I don't have to see it. I can just take the necessary precautions and assume that it's going to be on its way. As we can see, it's still quite a ways off. 60 seconds for the fleet being in, and the build time for the mothership, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to assume that the mothership is coming. It doesn't hurt me to build the Overseers, plus the Overseers allow me to put out changelings, that way I can see where his army is and pick the best engagement I want. As for the upgrades, I'll run over those really quickly before we get to the big 18-minute Broodlord attack. I go 1 ranged and 1 carapace for my first 2 upgrades. That gives my Hydras at the 14-minute attack extra damage, and my Zerglings that are tanking in the 14-minute attack extra toughness. In my second set of upgrades is going to be +1 melee and +2 range, which both finished up. And that's going to be my progression into Broodlords. Again, Broodlings and Adrenalings are becoming my damage dealers rather than my tanks or my cannon fodder, if you want to look at it that way, because they're not necessarily tanky. And therefore, I want the upgrades for the Broodlings and the Lings. That's why I'm also getting the Adrenal Glands. Adrenal Glands is amazing. Always get Adrenal Glands. I don't think anybody needs to be told that at this point in the game, but I'll just put it out there just in case. For my third set of upgrades, again, I'm transitioning into Broodlords. I'm getting Broodlord upgrades. I've already got the +2 Hydra damage finished up, so my Hydras are dealing a lot of damage already. I don't really need the +3 Hydra damage. The +2 melee damage will help my Broodlings out a lot, and my Lings are going to have Adrenal Glands, and the +2 melee plus Adrenal Glands is just that much more damage. Meanwhile, again, the +2 ground carapace helps everything survive longer, so go ahead and get it. Instead of getting the +3 range, just because the +3 range doesn't help nearly as much of my army as the +2 carapace. Pretty obvious stuff there. Meanwhile, I delayed this 5th. I'll go ahead and take this 5th now. Depending on how this battle goes, I'll probably also take my 6th. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, my 6th. You should be up to like 5 or 6 bases after your 18-minute attack. if it doesn't win you the game. That's actually extremely rare that it hasn't won me the game. And the only time I have gone longer than 20 minutes is because of extremely aggressive Protoss players, which we're going to see in the next match. So we'll just wait till then to cover it. Again, 4 Overseers are going to give me changelings to pin down the army, and I'm morphing my Broodlords in the middle. The reason I'm morphing the Broodlords in the middle instead of back at base is that the cocoons here are extremely tanky, and they're going to be fine getting shot at. We may not want that in an Infestor Broodlord mix. We may want to morph them back here, because our Infestors are not going to be able to protect these cocoons nearly well enough, and we're just going to lose cocoons and Infestors, and then we're going to be dead. But with a Ling Hydra army, with adrenal glands and +2 ranged attacks, dealing insane amounts of damage per second, we'll be fine if the army comes up here like it's moving to and attacks. This is actually a little bit odd, this engagement that's going to happen. He's actually going to sit here, see my army, and just A-move. I would totally expect a Protoss player to blink under these Broodlords to try to kill him off, because Protoss players, for some reason, well, I shouldn't say for some reason, Protoss players are conditioned to know that the Broodlord is an extremely powerful unit, possibly the most powerful unit in the game if they want to whine about it, and therefore they want to kill the Broodlords before they hatch from their cocoons. But like I said, in this army composition, that's exactly what I want. I want him focusing down my Broodlords, that way my Hydras and my Lings can deal all the damage and completely wipe out his army. Meanwhile, because they're in cocoons, they have extra defense, they have a good bit of life, and if he doesn't kill off the cocoon before it hatches, my Broodlords get all their HP back, so it's effectively wasted attack damage from his units. It is just so much better for him to see my army in the middle and go, oh, I better kill that before the Broodlords hatch. That is exactly what I want, and that's why in the 18-minute attack, I lead with my Broodlords, because I have Hydras and Lings backing this up instead of Infestors. Infestors are a powerful unit, yes, but this is just a completely different playstyle, you know? This is not about positional play, this is about convincing your opponent to damage units that you don't necessarily need, and supplementing those units to deal the damage back to him and just completely wipe him out and make him quit. That's why, again, we attack into the natural at this 18-minute attack, because he has no time and we're just going to wipe out all his production structures. Per usual, the Cyber Core is going to be right here at the front, and the second we wipe that out, there's no more sentries, there's no more stalkers. He can only produce Zealots, Immortals, and Colossi out of his Robo and his Gateways, and none of those shoot up, so our Broodlords are going to win. He could have Templars, yes, that's actually completely true, completely accurate. He could morph Archons. It doesn't matter so much, though, because we have Hydras. Hydras are actually extremely effective at killing Archons, so long as the Archons aren't attacking the Hydras. Which, again, is why we have Broodlords getting the Broodlings in the way, so that he can't attack them with the Archons. As for the Mothership, we have Corruptors to spike that down as quickly as possible. Don't bother focusing it with the Hydras. Just allow the Hydras to wipe out the ground army, because they're going to do that quick enough anyway with the Overseers. Alright, everything sounds good. We understand our plan of attack here. I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward through. We're going to see the normal things that we expect out of this game. I'm moving around just to find the army. It pops up here. Like I said, I expected the Blink Stalkers to blink up sooner and attack the cocoons. They wait till the Broodlords are actually dead, and at that point there's just no damage. I mean, everything is effectively dead at this point. I'm rallying Lings forward to the front lines just to continue acting as a buffer. I should have another like 50 or so coming up in just a moment. Leading with the Blink Broodlords to get the Blink forward so that my Lings and Hydras can kill the Blink Stalkers. Obviously, I overextended myself seriously this time, rather than just a little bit, and I lost half of my Broodlords from that initial attack, but I still have 8 Hydras. I started this attack with 9 Hydras and an attack in the middle with 10. I've only lost 1 Hydra in the last 2 engagements, and they're going to be continuing to deal damage consistently, and I can just go ahead and morph, 4 or 5 more Broodlords right over top his base, because there's nothing he can do about it. He can't remax that quick. even if he has like 11 gateways, if he blink stalkers in and starts focusing Broodlords again, it's just going to repeat. I'm just going to attack it with my adrenal lings and my hydras, and it's going to be dead instantly, and I'll just morph more Broodlords. And if he gets more air units out, I'll just morph more Corruptors back at home. It's really no big deal. I can just continue cycling and rallying forward whatever I need. If I lose my lings, I rally more lings forward to act as a buffer along with the broodlings and to deal damage. If I lose Broodlords, I'll go ahead and morph some more Broodlords and then morph some more Corruptors back at home and rally the Corruptors forward. This is a very sustainable attack because the Broodlords tank so much damage. They have 1 starting armor, which obviously is a bit more than other units. You know, it doesn't seem that much if you play, you know, like big crazy games like WoW or whatever, where everything is in the hundreds and the thousands, your stats. Diablo maybe, I don't know. But that 1 armor is significant compared to other units that have 0. Overseer has 1. Corruptors actually have 2. I'm actually impressed to find that one out. Anyway, point is, Broodlords can tank a lot of damage for me, and they don't necessarily need to do any damage. Their Broodlings help me zone out units that can't blink, and the units that can blink right on top of my damage dealers, which are the Hydras and the Lings. So, there's really no problem here. If I get supply point blocked at any point, I can easily just take all my Lings, run them in here to start killing stuff off, and make him kill those off first to clear up supply for me, or run them over here and just let them die to the cannons while killing off probes and cannons and whatnot, and making this area more susceptible. And then I can just morph in more Corruptors. Let's say if I needed more of those and less Lings. Really easy to remax at this point in the game. Especially now that I have, you know, 5 bases up. I should be getting a 6th base up soon. There's really not much more that can happen this game. It's more or less guaranteed that I win. Again, the Vortex would be the only thing, and that would be an extremely powerful, you know, kick in the pants, but I don't believe a Mothership, unless he teched directly to Mothership at the same time that I was teching directly to Broodlords, there's no way it's going to have 100 energy for a Vortex at this point. And even then, I can, you know, be sending changelings out if I get worried, if I've seen a Mothership, let's say, and I saw it float over here with some of my Lings because I sent them in with for the attack. You know, I can easily just send my Corruptors after it and just zone it out before it can get to my Hydra, Ling, Broodlord. Even then, Hydra, Ling, and Broodlord all attack at different ranges, so they're not necessarily clumped up. Once I start pushing into this base, the Lings will be... Once I break this front wall, the Lings will be over here, the Hydras will be right here, and the Broodlords will be back here. Yes, he can swing in from the side, but the Hydras are close enough that they can just attack right there, and the Lings move quickly enough that they can respond. Again, I'm going to have Corruptors. I'm going to have at least 8 to 12 Corruptors sitting around, just in case a Mothership shows up. So just morphing more Broodlords over top my opponent's army is incredibly easy to do, and I can lose all these Broodlords, morph more Broodlords, and morph more Corruptors, which will rally up here to my force. I'm not saying this is, you know, the ultimate build or anything. I'm just saying it seems rather obvious to me that there's not a whole lot that you got to worry about. All right, so we're going to move on to Game 3, where I get warpgate attacked and DT'd and lose a whole bunch of bases and have to build roaches instead of hydras, which is what normally happens in a Zerg versus Protoss game, but I try to avoid it normally, and I'm not going to have the DPS at the end of the game, and therefore I'm going to lose Broodlords a whole lot more often. It's unfortunate, but it's what I got to do to continue surviving against an aggressive player. So we're going to go into that in just a moment. See you on the other side. Alright, on Ohana, going to be going through this, let's say at ×4 for now, because we already know our opening. We're going to be getting 3 bases, and then things are going to get a bit different, and I'll explain why. This is Ohana, for one. Ohana is absolutely miserable for sentries. If there's any number of sentries, it's going to be a bad day. This probe does scout my 3 bases, and this is indicator number 1 that's going to completely change my build. Indicator number 2 is going to be, I'm going to be up here on my Broodlord checking out this base, and I'm going to see an instant chrono on the warp gate. That's indicator number 2. Um, Indicators, I'm saying this, and we're seeing 2 gases go down. I'm expecting a big old warp gate attack, even though I haven't seen the 5 warp gates that are going to go, or I think it's 4 gates that are over here and the one right here. Even though I don't see any of these, I know that this went down ultra early because he cut probes, and this cyber core got up ultra early, and he started chrono boosting it immediately while I was looking at it. So I'm expecting a fast warp gate, and I'm getting just 2 geysers for now, and then I'll be adding on another 2 as soon as I get saturated. Meanwhile, I'm running around the map looking for pylons, and this right here, this move out, is going to prompt me to make all the Zerglings I can. We see that come in at the right there. The reason why, okay. Again, I'm expecting an aggressive player because I saw a fast Nexus and a fast Warp Gate, and he tried to put a pylon down here. Those 3 indicators, to me, flag him as an aggressive player. And I'm going to be looking around for units to kill. I got my gases early, my first 2 gases early, that way I can get a fast lair and a fast spawning pool in case something happens. And then I'm adding just 2 more gases on. I'm not going to add any more gases on just yet because I need the mineral incomes to make as many lings and roaches as I can to hold a warp gate attack. For an early warp gate attack, there is no way I'm going to hold it with just... I'm not going to... Rather, there's not enough time for me to get Hydras up. I'm not going to be able to just get Hydras up and then hold it. Meanwhile, I see all these pylons going down. If I had any doubts in my mind before, now I know for certain, and I start up the roaches. I held off on roaches specifically and just made lings because I wasn't entirely sure. But really, there's no doubt at all. There's pylons down, he's going for a warp gate attack. As Zerg, try to get as many fronts as you can in an engagement. I kind of flubbed the bottom attack here. That should have came here a lot sooner. And also try to cut off any reinforcements that might be coming in from the back, so go ahead and attack from the back too. I did some damage there. I didn't deal a whole lot of damage, but some damage helps, and it also helps free up supply. That way I don't have to build more overlords. Meanwhile, I got my spores and my spines down because I'm still expecting DTs. Even though he's moving out with a warp gate attack, there could be DTs. He's an aggressive player. He's going to want DTs. I may as well just be safe about it and make sure I have DT prevention in place. Meanwhile, getting the 1-1 for ranged because roaches are ranged units and they really need to... and I'm going to be utilizing them heavily against a warp gate player because I'm not getting my Hydra Den up. Again, I have Lair here. I really should have roach speed. I have no idea why I missed that this game. Regardless, I'm swinging around the back to cut off reinforcements, and I'm pulling all my queens over to one place. Queens help so much against early attacks. Never ever neglect to bring your queens along. Meanwhile, he's used a lot of force fields here. That's one of my saving graces. He went force field, force field, force. So now his sentries are all low. That's going to help me clean up. Honestly, feel free to bring the drones because you just lost this hatch. You know. That being said, you know, try not to lose the hatch, but it's not that big of a deal if you do lose it, just because he committed a lot to that attack. Because I'm playing against an aggressive player, I do queue up another, 12, 14 roaches, and I will be moving up here. I just really feel like I need to be safe here, and I'm going to be cleaning up pylons just with 3 roaches here. I'm not going to commit anything else. These roaches should be moving up to join the rest of them. And then I've got a big line of roaches coming in to reinforce. At this point, again, I want to make sure he's not coming with another warp gate attack. That's why I'm moving up here with a bunch of roaches. And I want to make sure he's not taking a third. If he's taking a third, I want to cancel it if at all possible because I don't have a third. One more rule before we get to this amazingness that happens right here. When I lose a base, as a general rule of thumb, and unfortunately this doesn't quite make it, getting this creep tuner down, I normally try to grab an extra base to make up for it. So anyway, I'll come back to that just in a minute because this is going to happen all over again. This looks kind of lucky, honestly.
to find the robo bay right there and be able to kill it. And of course, move up some roaches to the mineral line to deal some economic damage whenever you attack in like this. Never just go, oh, I gotta kill his army. Put some units over here to attack his army, and move some units over here. You know, I just moved him right here, but if you can get him all the way up here to start dealing economic damage, because he's not going to be able to respond to it quick enough, especially with his force wheels getting in his way. Anyway, like I was saying about the robo bay, just to get that thought solidified, for some reason the robo facility always gets put down at the natural for Protoss. Like 9 times out of 10. There are times that it doesn't, but that actually I found is pretty rare. I think that one of the bigger things is that your immortals have less room, you know, less distance to walk to the ramp if they need to defend it. That's about the only thing I can think of. All I know is that I see most of the time a robo bay come up in the natural instead of back here in the main somewhere. Obviously the replacement one's in here. I'm assuming that's just because he lost his and he was like, oh, I guess I better not lose that again, because now I don't have Colossi for another 3 or 4 minutes. You know, that is actually the biggest win here, is getting the robo dead. Not because of the Immortal Sentry push, but because now I don't have to worry about Colossi for a long time. Meanwhile, coming back to what the game looks like, I'm trying to get this base back up, and I took my 4th. I do maintain a good number of units out on the field just because I expect an attack at any time. I should have like 14 Lings here and then 22 roaches. That's a good number. I'm trying to get back up to 75 drones, but you need to just keep in mind that he could be attacking you at any point because he has so many warp gates. Meanwhile, he does take this 3rd. I don't quite have anything in view to see it yet. I should be checking up on that because, again, I came over here first with my roaches. I want to know when this 3rd gets up to see how far behind I am economically. I was further behind in this game economically because he skipped probes to get this Nexus up, and because I did absolutely nothing with these Lings. They got up here, he pyloned here, and I didn't have enough time. He spotted it early enough with a pylon scout to get a cannon up quick enough. So, that explains that one. Meanwhile, in this game, we're going to see me go for, there they are, Mutalisks. I'm against a warp gaining player. I know there aren't going to be I know there's not going to be Colossi out too soon. And I know that he was at least moving. He was taking out these rocks to expand last time I saw him. So at this point, I'm going to get Mutalisks to try to pin him back. It's actually not going to work that well, as we're going to see in just a moment. I'll go ahead and speed that up because there's not much else to really worry about. Again, sending all sorts of changelings up and around. I've got like 3 of them on the map at this point. I think one of them might have just got picked off over here. Oh no, there it goes. There we go. I popped my changeling. I see the army here, and now I know I'm safe to come up here, especially since for some reason he didn't react to this Overseer being up here. And whereas I expect to pin him back with that move, we see him walk in and kill my 3rd, or kill my 4th rather. Again, this is not the worst thing in the world. We'll see some amazing A move from me right here, being able to pick off a Colossus with A move. No, I actually focused that one down. But seriously, A move. And again, I'm going to be pulling around the back. I should be pulling around the back. Oh, yeah, there they go. Getting as many attack angles as possible and focusing down Immortals as when possible are all just basic Zerg attack patterns, let's say. Meanwhile, Hive just got up. I should be starting my Greater Spire as quickly as possible. I don't because I'm all sorts of frazzled from all this horrible attacking. And per usual, like I said, my rule of thumb, I lost a base. Let's make another base to make up for it. So now I'm up to 5 bases. We're getting closer to that 5 base economy. And here comes the DTs. You'll recall that this base got taken out at the beginning of the game with a big old warpgate attack, and that is why my two spines and my 1 spore are no longer here to defend against this. This is why you put spores and spines around, because rather than having to pull your army back to deal with it and losing drones while they're marching, you could be doing something like moving up here, and then this moves down, and then you move up here, Or, actually, here's a really important point that I should put out there. That attack, you see how I just pulled back? Why did I just pull back? Because our philosophy here is Colossi kill us. That actually is not completely true in this situation. You'll see I get Broodlords done. Looks like I rewound a little bit too much. Alright, Broodlords are available now. Broodlords are available now. I kill off the Colossus and then I pull straight back. The fact that he pulled back too is no big deal. You know, that doesn't really mean anything. All I want is no Colossi on the field. That's what I'm looking for. So at this point he comes in, snipes my 4th yet again, but now I have a Broodlord mix to deal with his deathball. Again, unfortunately, no Hydras in this mix. Biggest downfall of the army, no Hydras. But I've got Corruptors take out the Colossi, and Broodlords and Roaches to clean up everything else. As I mentioned in the last game, this game does not... I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward here. I'm making sure he doesn't get a 4th. I cannot possibly allow him to get a 4th at this point. The way this game has gone, that's just something to keep in mind. If you've been behind all game and you get up Broodlords, use those Broodlords to deny a 4th and take 5 or 6 bases. That's how you're going to win. But as you can see, this deathball is not working nearly as well as the Hydra deathball because the Roaches don't deal nearly as much damage and they're not supposed to be taking tanking damage. Roaches, the only thing they're good at is tanking damage. That's not what I need. I need the damage from the Hydras, or I need infestors. You know, that would be the other thing. Get the infestors at this point when you deviated, because you don't have to throw down the Hydra Den at that point. You already have the infestation pit for the Hive. So just transition to a normal infestor broodlord composition, I would suggest, if you've had to spend all your gas on roaches all game long, because you've constantly been defending attacks. Meanwhile, you know, Spore Spines, taking out DTs that get dropped over here, that's why we put down Spores and Spines at each of our bases. Late game, I get 3, maybe even 4 Spines at each base, just because the warping cycles are going to be bigger for the Protoss player. Okay, so, subject effectively beaten to death. No sense riding this horse any further. Thank you for watching. I hope this is at least an interesting build, if nothing else. Definitely another option, I believe. Going for Hydras and Adrenalings instead of the Infestors. I don't think it's necessarily an inferior composition to Infestor Broodlord. They're just 2 different kinds of armies, and you got to use them 2 different ways. For example, Infestor Broodlord are very good at, you know, controlling your opponent and stopping him from moving around. That's the whole entire point of Infestors. And it also gives you access to Neural Parasite to take care of that mothership. Unfortunately, from my experience, that's a very low percentage move from what I've seen from pro games. I honestly never see Neurals really pan out, like maybe 3 in 10, I think. And this is just, I personally feel, a more stable composition with the Hydras that never die because everything else is tanking for them, and the Broodlords drawing your opponent's fire for you. That way, you don't have to worry about losing valuable units like the Hydra and the Corruptor. Yes, I just said that the Hydra and Corruptor are more valuable than Broodlords. I'm sure none of you believe that, but they definitely can be used as tanks instead of damage dealers. Let's put it that way. Meanwhile, they do siege up very well, so that's why we would get these instead of Ultras. Ultras do not siege, whereas these ones do siege, and they also cannot be hit by everything, unlike Ultras. Ultras can be hit like by twice as many units as Broodlords can be hit too, simply because Broodlords are flying. So anyway, like I said, that exhausts that subject. I'm glad you're watching this. If you are, feel free to tell other people about it, and feel free to leave feedback. I'll probably do another video about feedback just because this is like my baby project. You know, this Hydra Ling Broodlord composition that I don't see played too often, if at all, especially out of a 9-pull opening. So I'd love to develop this further, if nothing more than for my own ladder sections. You know, I certainly would appreciate a higher win percentage. Not that mine's bad, but Diamond League is hard, and Master Leagues would be pretty cool if we could get into Masters. So, again, thank you, and have fun on ladder.